is up, everybody? I am so excited. We've got Nick here with the IBL Events. He's the CEO of IBL Events, and he is going to be sharing with us some of his intense knowledge around events, event marketing, planning, and everything like that. So, with that, Nick, I'm welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Justin. Happy to be here.
Yeah, awesome. I've got a couple basic questions to kind of get us kicked off, and then we'll dive into the more conversational part of the show. So first, who the heck are you?
Well, my name's Nick Aldinger, like you said. I'm an Idaho native, which is getting a little bit more rare these days, but born and raised here in Idaho, and currently reside in Meridian, Idaho. But that's just a little bit about me.
Awesome. And what does IBL do?
Yeah, IBL is an event producer. We produce trade shows, conferences, and virtual events. Our trade shows are primarily here in the state of Idaho, and our conferences we do all across the United States, and same with our virtual events.
Awesome. And why do you do it?
Well, I mean, for one, is really helping out businesses with coming and getting in front of their customers. So that's our primary objective, is to really deliver exceptional experiences within events. And we do that by delivering really high customer service and creating those memories. So that's our whole goal.
That's awesome. So what's your background then? How'd you get into all of this?
Yeah, well, I'm fortunate enough. My business partner is my wife, Anna Marie Aldinger, and she started working for IBL in 2004, and she really had a passion for events. And we had the opportunity to purchase IBL back in 2013. And that kind of started the journey for both of us, because like you were just asking, my background is actually in technology. I have a degree in information systems, and never thought with that degree I would be in events. But you know what turned out to be a good thing was when we bought the business, I had no intentions of actually even coming over, just helping on the side. But circumstances changed where I needed to come over and help while she dealt with some family issues. And when I came over, I not only thoroughly enjoyed it, but saw that there was a passion there to help and grow this business. And now 6 years later, after moving over full time, I'm still doing it and having a blast.
That's awesome. So you went from IT background, transitioned into being a business owner in the event space. How has your background affected the business?
Yeah, my background, I give a lot of credit. I was, I started off, I was kind of had the entrepreneurial bug when in my younger years. And so started a couple businesses and helped run a few. And I also had the luxury of working at Micron Technology. And I give a lot of credit to Micron for really helping with my business acumen. That was so important for not only myself, but for my next steps in my life, that I really felt that education and the learnings that I received helped set me up for success down the road.
That is awesome. So Micron was a big part of it. Micron's an amazing company here in Idaho. I can see how their business acumen would play into your journey.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. If you had to start over from scratch tomorrow, what would you do? Like, how would you use the skill sets that you've collected? Because at the end of the day, we all get a fresh start tomorrow. Like, no matter when you listen to this, when you wake up, it's a new day. So the skill set you collect have a compound investment into your life. So what would you do looking at that astronomical obstacle of, oh no, it's brand new, where do we go from here?
Yeah, that's a great question. And if I would go back, we're pre-programmed really in life to not to fail. And I think that is not a good thing.
Amen.
And I really think we need to fail. And I think we need to fail more, but not use the word fail. I look at them as learning experiences. And the more we could go out there and experience life and have those learning experiences is only going to make us stronger. And it's going to allow us to not only increase our knowledge, but to expand as individuals. And I think that's the biggest thing, is not to be afraid. And again, to use that word fail, that's what I would do differently. Is, again, I did not want to fail. I didn't want to disappoint people. I didn't want to disappoint myself. But that's how we grow. And it's one thing is, if we look at it now, if you're failing and you keep doing the same thing over and over and running into that brick wall, that's a problem. But if we have a learning experience and we're able to then grow from that and get around that, that is what we need to be able to be striving for. So that would be probably the biggest change I would do as a younger self, and I would do differently.
I love that. I think failure is the most important part of success.
Absolutely.
And so that what you said there resonates a ton with me, because I think as a society, we're taught from a young age to avoid failure. But in reality, it is only through failure that we find success.
Spot on. You are so on point right there. And you said it a lot better than I did.
No, not at all. It's all part of the journey, right? So tell me, looking at your journey, what has been one of those failures that sticks out to you as, now that it's done? Because in the moment, can we both agree failure sucks?
Yeah, it's hard, and it's also very humbling, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you and again, what we have to do is not, and I use this a lot with even my team, is we have to make sure we don't use that as a reflection of self-worth, because it's not. It's what we want to do with that energy, right? And we have to look at it, and this is where I think leadership really comes into play. And we're all leaders, and that's the thing, is leadership is not a title. Leadership is not a person in a specific role. Leadership is built into everybody. Now, other people exude different types of leadership styles and have maybe some stronger attributes than others, and that's perfectly okay. But when it comes down to making those mistakes, it's humbling. But we have to just be able to say to ourselves, is how do we turn that into a good thing? How are we going to grow? How are we going to get better? And it's at those opportunities that, yes, it sucks. We have to swallow it, and sometimes it's a hit on the old pride, and like I said, it's a humbling experience. But the faster we could get around that, it's a new day the next day, right? And that's where the power comes into it, is because it's going to make us stronger. And those increments of growth might not happen overnight. It might happen down the road. And for me, a lot of those learning experiences came into play later in my life, and more in those IBL times, especially in that 2020 period with COVID. That's where I was able to maybe shine a little bit more because of those past learning experiences.
That's awesome. So you brought up COVID. COVID was hard on everyone.
Yeah.
I can only imagine for an events company what that was like. Would you mind sharing what were some of the failures you guys went through and struggles you went through, and how did you get through them?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, it was, and it was hard for a lot of people, you know, in almost any industry, and everyone has their COVID stories. Um, you know, but being in events where this was our livelihood and we were completely shut down for 14 months, and for someone who I really like to plan and to not understand what that future is going to hold, because I truly didn't know what was going to happen in 3 months, 6 months, let alone a year. That was a point in my life that I felt I didn't have control. And so what does a person do? And the very first thing that I told Anna Marie is that we have to be really excellent communicators. And at that point, I remember calling the meeting. We had a huge event at the end of March, one that we were working multiple years on. It was a huge event. And we had to cancel it 2 weeks before it went on. And we lost a lot of money on that one. But when we made that cancellation, I called the team and I said, because everyone was wondering what the heck's going on, like why are we shutting down? And obviously, all the venues were shutting down. We couldn't put on events, even if we wanted to. We called a team meeting and said, listen, no one's going to get laid off for the next 6 months. We knew we had the cash reserves to be able to sustain that. And we started repurposing our energy on getting ready for doing stuff in the summer. But guess what? Stuff didn't come back in the summer. We had no access to venues. We couldn't put on events. And so again, it was a very challenging time because we were able to keep people busy. We were helping some other people find roles. We wanted, if there was a role that came up, we wanted them to be able to take that because we just didn't know what was going to happen with events. But it goes back to that communication. It was not only really healthy for the team because they just wanted to be able to know, and the best I could communicate, even if I didn't know, was just communicating, touching, because we were all working from home. So
Right.
having those check-ins, and thank goodness for technology, because we had stuff like Zooms and Google Meets and stuff like that. We had the ability to connect. And the more I could communicate, it was not only helpful for them, but it was also helpful for me, because I had a chance to also talk to them at a personal level, like, how's it going? How are you doing? Right? What can I
Right.
help you with? And the more we were able to communicate, it was great. We ended up repurposing. I'll just speed it up a little bit. We ended up repurposing. We started getting a lot of requests for virtual events, as you can imagine.
Mhm.
And it was at that point I said to the team, we're going to repurpose our skill sets and really embrace virtual. We didn't do a lot before COVID, obviously, but we started helping out a lot with virtual. And that was great for us because it kept our lights on. We ended up doing virtual. We're still doing virtual to this day. But that got us through. That got us through that 14th month period of not having events, which was a very, very long time. But I'm also proud of the team. I'm proud of what we accomplished during that time for being fully reliant on in-person and then switching to doing virtual. So that was a great learning experience, and I felt my background in the past. I was able to rise to the occasion and be that communicator, and I didn't shy away from the issue. I didn't shy away from the problem. Even if I didn't know the answer or how to fix it, I wanted everyone to know it was okay for me to take that responsibility on.
Yeah. It, it sounds like you demonstrated a level of extreme ownership in how do we move forward, which I think is, my opinion, is ownership of the problems is the job of a CEO. And
Right.
so I think that's fantastic. How hard was it to enlist the troops to transition into that virtual space rather than the real world space? Was everybody pretty on board?
Yeah, again, I was surrounded by amazing people, and I've always been surrounded by a great team. I really feel that's something that any organization really has to have is great people. If you surround yourself by great people, it makes things a lot easier to tackle those issues right when they arise. And the team was great. They said, whatever it's going to take, we want to be in, right?
Yeah.
Um, and that was part of the success because we still had challenges. It wasn't easy. We ran into stuff that we never have encountered before or how to do. But again, we talked a lot about it as a team, and we said, you know what, for what we don't know, let's not shy away from it. Let's tackle it, and let's find out how we could become the best at something that we're not good at or we don't know. And again, it was hard at times, but it made us even better. And so once you tackle that fear, then it doesn't become as scary. And guess what? Everything what we put in our heads sometimes when it comes to fear or those unknowns, it's usually bigger than what it really is.
Right.
And once we tackled that and once we were able to overcome, we're like, man, that wasn't as hard as we initially thought. And we're better because of what we went through, not only from a work experience, but from us personally. And those are skill sets people could take when they tackle those type of things, that whether it's at IBL or anywhere else in their life, they're going to have a higher chance of success because they're like, I could do this. So
Yeah. That is awesome. I love that. So let's change shoes
yeah.
and let's put ourselves in a business owner's shoes. So not the owner of IBL, but you're coaching me, right? As a business owner, how should I be thinking and looking at events, because that's your expertise, as a part of my business mix?
Yeah, another great question. Well, first of all, the power of face-to-face interaction is huge. And I think with your past experience, you know this all too well. But personal interaction we're humans in nature. And the thing with technology, and I'm a big proponent of technology. I love technology. I'll be the first to I'm an early adopter, right? I love technology. I love to get on it. But one thing that we sometimes forget in business is the power of one-on-one interactions or the power of talking face-to-face with our customers. And that's something where events helps get us back to those connection points. And again, we're looking for that quick fix, and we usually rely on technology for that quick fix. And we spend a lot of money on trying to get those customers through technology. But in reality, we don't need to spend all that money with technology when the answer is right in front of us. And that's that face-to-face interaction, which is usually quite inexpensive in getting in front of those customers. Now, obviously, technology could get us across and touch a lot more customers in a broader area, like geographically.
Right.
But that face-to-face interaction is still so important with your customer base. And that's another thing I'll just highlight just a little bit is we sometimes try to be that big fish in the big pond
Mm-hmm.
when you don't need to be that big fish in the big pond. Be that big fish in the small pond.
Right.
Start with your local, start with your demographic right in front of you before you try to be the big one. And that is where events in that presence and being consistent really matters.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That is such good advice. So if anybody is just tuning in, here's the message I heard is when you are starting out, it is so fun to imagine being the next Amazon, being the next big player. But no matter where you're at, there's one person in front of you that you can impact today. And it's starting at that one to get to two, to get to four, that as business owners and entrepreneurs, we hate going through it. We hate how long it takes, but it's incredibly important, and you'll be more successful if you do it that way.
Absolutely. And I'll add on to that too, is when we're dealing with our customers, and this is whether you're doing it in person or using technology, we need to be able to track those interactions, those leads, and getting that customer input. So whether you're selling a product or you're selling a service, is what is the customer saying back to us? And this is something that we in our own personal business here at IBL Events, we really want to understand what the customer is feeling. And that's not only our vendors participating at our shows or the attendees, but what are they saying? What's that feedback coming back? Because if we're not answering or solving their problems, then what are we doing, right?
Right.
And that's with any business out there, is how are you collecting that data? And how are you following? So, the one mistake, or I should say a learning experience that is often missed with a lot of business owners out there, is they're not collecting that data especially when it comes to sales data, and they're not using it to their potential. So they'll attend an event, or they'll have a campaign, let's say a social media campaign, but they're not collecting that data. They're not following up on those leads.
Right.
It becomes a waste of time, or you don't understand that value or that ROI on what you're doing. Collect that data, but follow up on that data. And what that data is telling you is we got to be actionable, and the more you collect, the more power that's going to give you. That data is going to tell you over time more and more and more information. Now, we're speaking at a very, very high level,
Right.
but it's not complicated. Business is not complicated. Sometimes we try to make it very complicated, or we try those quick fixes. But we need to start with the basics, and it's that collecting of the data. And I would love to ask you, Justin, too, is what is, from your past experience too in business, how important are KPIs or goals within your business?
So I think KPIs and goals are the lighthouse that we use to make decisions on a day-to-day basis. So the KPIs and tracking those activities is incredibly important, because it shows that we're on the journey to where we want to be, right? And if you don't have a lighthouse that you're marching towards, how are you making decisions as an individual? And then how is the team you're working with making decisions? And so that's one of the things I see when it comes to goal setting and setting intentions, is you've got to make sure you're on the same page with everyone within your organization. Because if I go and ask Anne Marie, hey, what's the goal? And Nick's goal is this, and Anne Marie's goal is this, and there's a 10-foot chasm. It's like, okay, I'm glad you both have goals, but how do you make decisions in the business? And how do the employees make decisions in the business? And so that's where, to me, those KPIs and goal settings always comes back to unity on the front line today. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. And I'm a big believer in what you just said, and I love the analogy of a lighthouse, because it should be it should be our North Star.
Yes.
Everything we do, and not only our goals up top, as we filter them down and set goals for our employees, they should feed the larger goals, right? Because we should all be working together. And if we're setting goals down below that aren't connected with the goals up top, then we're going to have disconnects, right?
Right.
They might be good goals, but why aren't they feeding the collective, right, of your higher goals? So I completely agree with that statement for sure.
Yeah. And so I look at life as a giant game of chess. So it is a chess board that has 8 billion pawns on it. So every individual operates on their own belief system, on their own timeline, on their own, right? And so in business, you're trying to collect these people and say, hey, this is where we're going as a team. And we need to collect this larger group of people to come in and be clients that also want to go there, right? We're on the exact same team as our clients.
Yep.
The reason someone would hire IBL is because they don't want to build an entire in-house events team, right?
Yeah, spot on.
We are an extension of our clients' teams. And it doesn't matter whether you're producing a widget, you're selling software, you're cleaning houses, you're building roads, all of it is a partnership between the employees of the organization and the clients of the organization, because we all want the same thing. And that's one of the things I think, one of the reasons I love events so much is because it's that in-person experience that really drives that partnership and makes it easy to be on the same team, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. And in those connections, again, going back to the very beginning of our conversation is, we're humans in nature. That's what we are. We're humans. And that connection is so important. And it's hard to do that in a virtual setting, right?
Yeah.
And again, going back to that one-on-one interaction or that face-to-face is we could connect the dots. And that's where that collaboration, that's a partnership, or you're able to articulate solving a customer's problem. But more importantly, we have a lot easier way of becoming the subject matter experts or being a trusted advisor because I see you. I could interact with you. I know you are a real person, right? And that's what's hard in this technology world is it's harder to understand if it's a trusted advisor if I've never met you or talked to you, right? If you're hiding behind a wall or whatever, a virtual wall. So again, going back to those events, that's really a powerful way of having that connection.
I love that reminder because in person is different. Like it is vastly different. And I think a lot of people, I saw a graph of amount of time you spend with your friends, right, in today's society. And across all generations, it's nosediving. Like we aren't getting together in person because when you have one of these, a phone, it's so easy to feel like, hey, I've got all these friends.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got all these people in my life. But in reality, you don't.
Right.
You don't.
Right.
And I mean, yes, they're there for you, but I think most people are friends of convenience. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Most of my friends are friends of convenience, right?
Yeah.
When we're close, we get together and we have a great time. But we don't talk to each other if we're not close. Like what are you wearing? I don't even know what the conversation would sound like, right?
Right.
And so that's one thing. Live events have changed my life drastically. And I would highly encourage anyone to, if you feel like you're in a funky spot, if you feel like you don't know what's going on or what you should do next, go to some live events. Go to some of the IBL has a ton of live events they put on every year. Go to business networking events. Go to Chamber of Commerce events.
Yes.
Get out of your own head and go somewhere where you can, instead of liking a post, you could give someone a high five, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And it's so true. And we're going to, technology as it continues to advance, I do think there's going to be a swing though for more interaction, more face-to-face interaction. People are going to want that. But even if the people that do want it, there's going to be people that don't know how to. And I know that sounds crazy, but conversations, right? Being able to, it's like to have great business acumen. It's like just having conversational acumen, right? It's going to be a challenge for some of these younger generations, or it may feel awkward or not normal. And that's where I really encourage these businesses as well, is even internally for those that maybe be remote, is have some face-to-face team building activities, right? Have those interactions to get the team together. It's very important. And it's important to have those interactions with not only our customers, but our own team members.
100% agree. So, Nick, as we're wrapping up, how do we get a hold of you? Let's pretend someone's listening and they're thinking, you know what, we do need a corporate event and I would like some help on it. What's the best next step?
The easiest way is just go to iblevents.com. That's our obviously our website, really easy to go to, and you could get a list of all of our events that we do, but also our corporate events, our conferences. Very easy. We have the contact information there. The other way, you could call our office. Again, we love to talk to people in person. So you could call us. Our office number is 208-376-0464. And then lastly, connect with me on LinkedIn. I try to be available to everyone. One thing I take pride on is getting back to people. So if you shoot me a message, it might take me a day or two, but I will get back to you. But connect with me on LinkedIn. So I'm not hard to find. There's not too many Nick Aldingers out there. But I highly encourage people to connect with me on LinkedIn. And I'd hope to see maybe some of you at some networking events.
I love it. You and me both. So, Nick, last question.
Okay.
What's something that really motivates you? It can be a quote, just a process, an idea. What gets you as an individual going?
Honestly, it's the people around me. I get motivated because of battery chargers, not battery drainers.
Yes.
And in this age, that's more important than ever, is ask yourself who you are surrounding yourself with. Because every day I wake up, I'm a very optimistic guy. When I wake up, I feel like I'm going to have a great day, but it's up to me to have that great day. But when I walk through my office doors, I want the same, right? I want the people to lift me up. And I'm trying to lift people up all day long. And it's not that we have bad days. That has nothing to do with it. But it has to be, is that positive outlook and surrounding yourself by positive people is so important in this world.
I love it. That is a great last message. So with that said, thank you everybody for tuning in. If we can ever help or support you, reach out. IBL does amazing work. I've known Nick for a long time, and I would vouch for him personally.